Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me professional wrestler Mickie Knuckles, who has to pave the way for so many women wrestlers out there. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. How have you been?
I am good. We're working through some technical difficulties on this
Yeah,
show, so who
I'm
knows what's going
deaf.
to happen.
Yeah,
Hopefully, a bunch of people are still watching as I advertise it on Facebook, but there's a lot
sorry.
to talk about. And I am curious how you got into wrestling because you've been doing this for almost 20 years now.
Have I? I'm so old. I actually started in backyard wrestling with my brother-in-law and his friends. And we would rent out the ring for IWA. And Ian and Patty would come to the shows, like that little backyard shows we'd have. And of course, before we could get in the ring and do anything, we'd have to clean up from the shows the night before. So I would get there early so I can clean up, fix the ring, because I just wanted to wrestle. And then the guys would get in there, and I was pretty much like a test dummy for everything because I was the smaller person. Believe it or not, I wasn't as big as I am now. Okay. and and I was easy to throw around, and I would take anything and go through anything, get hit with anything. So I was always the test dummy for everything. And Ian and Patty saw this, and they were like, have you ever thought about becoming a wrestler, train to be a wrestler? And I'd always loved wrestling, but I came from a small town. We didn't know how to get into it. And I was offered a deal that if I did ring crew and anything that was asked of me, like anything from sound, concessions, gimmicks, security, everything, being a ref, anything they needed. If I did everything that was asked of me, they would continue to train me for free until I quit. Because Ian was convinced I was not going to graduate his school. And I was determined because I'm not one to sit there and let somebody go, oh, you can't do this. So I powered my way through and became the first female graduate of IWA MidSouth Wrestling School.
So let's talk about that because this is super interesting because you paid your dues. Obviously, you did everything that was necessary in IWA Mid South as a trainee, and then you're doing that and then you're being trained. And obviously, this is what, 2002 ish?
I graduated high school in 2002, a week after my 18th birthday.
And so, what was that like stepping into the ring, but also doing everything else and really getting all the aspects of wrestling? Because I think people forget that a wrestling company and even being a wrestler is not just being in the ring, it's ring crew, it's selling concessions, doing tickets, promotion, and everything in between, cleaning up after the event. And when you do all that, you get a real understanding of what the business looks like. And so, what was that like? Because in many ways, it gives you a different perspective.
So I've always said I was very blessed. I had some of the best people around me to help train me. I trained 5 days a week during a lot of the time of training. And then you would think IWA would have like a show every weekend, a show, Friday and Saturday. Sometimes they'd have a Thursday show. It just depends on what's going on. And so I would also be happen to be there to do those shows. And then I was working a full-time job because I was alienated from my family after I chose wrestling. They didn't quite understand and accept it. It is what it is. So I was on my own and I took care of myself. And at one point in time, I think I worked 2 full-time jobs while training in IWA. And then you have to go through the emotional training as well as the physical training, because when I was being brought into the business, I was told that people are going to say some fucked up shit. And either you get some tough skin, you learn to roll with the punches, or you crumble and you let it beat you. And they were sometimes downright fucking horrendous with some of the shit they would say. But never once did I say, oh, this is unfair. Oh, woe is me. Oh, a pity party like some people do. And not that I'm saying it, there's a fine line between being brought in the wrestling business the right way and being subjected to ridicule and abuse just for the sake of that. The benefits of me being trained the way I was far outweighed any type of negative or derogatory thing I went through. And it was the balance that I had to find in order to understand that this business was going to chew me up and spit me out unless I did something about it. And so I was very blessed to have those people around me, the same people that were training me, you know, that combined, I can't even count the number of years they have as far as in this business. You know, God rest his soul. I had Tracy Smothers training me all the time, sorry. And Bull Payne and Mark Wolf and Chris Hero, and Punk was down there a lot. And, you know, Ian and Roland and Mitch and Cash. And I had a plethora of people, Michael Todd Stratton or Todd Morton, whatever you knew him as. I had tons of people. And then you got to think at that time, IWA was bringing in people like Samoa Joe and Chris Daniels and AJ Styles. And so then when those people would come in, I'd have the ability to pick their brains. I was very spoiled and blessed. And I took the opportunities I was given and I did the best I could with them. And I'm happy for them. But it was rough and it was meant to be rough. And unfortunately, some people are not trained that way anymore. And I don't know if some people, even if they were trained that way, if they would make it through. I would hope. But I'm lucky to have what I did in training. It was, it's an experience that I would never trade in.
And let's talk a little bit about that, because there is something that's going around. Obviously, I'm a big ICW fan. And on one of their shows, they basically said, hey, you know, people are soft today. And that you were trained very much in an old ECW way, from my understanding. And that's how Ian trains people. And he's brought up in that way. And there is something to be said about that. And obviously, what you've made a name for yourself in is you're a hardcore wrestler. And you're like paved the way for a hardcore women's wrestling in a lot of ways. And I think that comes out of IWA Mid-South and the way Ian and Chris trained you and a variety of other people. And what is that like? Because your matches, I feel, are phenomenal. And we're going to talk about a bunch of them in a second here. But it is, you've had some amazing, memorable matches that people are still talking about with people that I absolutely love. And I have a crush on one of the people you wrestled.
I can only imagine. Awesome. Now I'm going to be thinking that the rest of this thing. Yeah. Good job. I'm like, who?
So I'll tell you who it is. And and I have no problem telling who it is when we get to that person. But I do want to talk about coming into it, because IWA Mid-South with you is insane. And you've had crazy matches dating with so many people. I think Daisy Hayes is one of the names that pops up over like the 11 years you were in IWA Mid-South, and you've had every type of match with her. And obviously 2 out of 3 falls matches, steel cages, you know, DQ matches, title matches, back and forth. And I mean, you built the women's division in IWA Mid-South. No question about it.
I can't say that. If it wasn't for Dave Prazak using IWA as an experimental tool as to if women's wrestling would draw, thus building to Shimmer. It is what it is. He's smart about it. He was very smart about it. He did a trial run before he invested his own finances, which is perfect. And granted, he didn't much care for me. He wasn't a big fan of mine. I was kind of like the bells and whistles with the deal. Like, he could do women's shows at IWA, but he had to use me in some of them. You know what I mean? As part of that deal. And he let me know about it quite a few times, and it's fine. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's perfectly fine by me. I don't care.
But even still, the fact that even with that information,
no, Dave brought in some great females, and then before Dave even brought in those females, Ian was using Lacey and Rain all the time. Like, when I was still training, when I was being a ref, and when I was doing a ring crew and stuff, he would bring in Lacey and Rain to wrestle each other. And I would watch them girls work, and you would think them girls had so much heat for each other. And then be cleaning up afterwards, and they're walking, you know, towards their car, and they're just talking like they're best friends, because they are fucking best friends that beat each other up. And it's just great. So I learned a lot from them. When the whole women's division came about with IWA, I was a part of that, and I was lucky to be a part of that. Because he brought in people like Lexi Fife and LaFisto, and, you know, just people like women that were trying to do what we needed to do and what we wanted to do. So I was
But
lucky.
even still, I think you had some amazing matches, and I feel that you were a huge part of it, and it built up. And those Daisy Hayes matches where you were fighting over the title, and then she beat you, you beat her. Obviously, 2 out of 3 fall matches, and then same thing with Rain and Lacey, and obviously you and Rain have had steel cage matches and Indian strap matches, and obviously we're talking 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006. This wasn't really being done in women's wrestling at this point. And obviously, WWE was having sort of their divas position and wasn't really highlighting women's wrestling. And this was an alternative. And all of the people in IWA Mid South were doing it. And obviously, you were part of it. So, what was that like for you? Because you were bringing a real hardcore element to it and a real intensity to these matches. And it is super important. And it was, I think, super important for Mid South for you to do this.
It I don't think I was thinking of it that way. I think I was thinking of it as it was fun and it was good time, and I got to get in the ring with my friends and these guys that not only did I used to watch from the crowd, but I know I get to share a locker room with, and they don't treat me like a female. They don't treat me just because I have a vagina that I should be treated differently. And because I took my licks and I went through with training, and everybody knew what I went through with training. It was no secret. And I think that helped develop a relationship and a rapport with every other person, every male in wrestling, every female. Like, it wasn't like, oh, well, she's here. It was, hey, what's up, Mickie? It was, I felt included. And I don't know.
Because I think the turning point with a lot of this was your Ian Rodham match, the first one, where it was a bunch of fans bring the weapon matches. Because that didn't happen. It's obviously intergender wrestling existed before this, but now you have the owner of the company you're going up against, and it's not a traditional match.
Oh, that
And
was because I annoyed the fuck out of him. Don't get it wrong. It's because I annoyed the fuck out of him. When I am set on doing something, I do it, or I like pester about it until I do it. And so I was annoying the shit out of him. I was telling him I wanted to do death matches, and he was telling me no. And Patty was like, "Why don't you let her do it?" And him and Patty would get into a little squabble. And then like Pondo would be there, and Pondo, would be in the background listening to all this. And then Pondo comes to the ring and says what's exactly on his mind. They both went to Japan. They saw these women over in Japan step up in the ring and do these same type of matches. Why am I any different? I've fought and struggled to be where I'm accepted. Why not let me do what I need to do, what I feel like I'm destined to do? Why are you standing in my way? And so because I pestered and annoyed him, he was going to be the one to break me in. And he was not going to be nice about it. That first shot with that water jug bat, I don't remember much. Like, for the next 3 minutes of that match, I remember feeling cuckoo for Coco Puffs. I had concussions before that, but that rocked my world. And then I was like, all right, we got to get up and go, or he gonna kill you. So it was either get my ass beat or get back up. And that's what I wanted to do. So I did it.
And I feel like it opened up who you are, because following all this, you then opened up a whole hardcore level. And I don't think there were other people in America like you at that point. And you opened that up, I think, for Mid-South in a lot of ways. And you've been involved in so many matches. Obviously, Queen of Death match is another one that we got to talk about, and Staple Guns, and obviously, Tai death matches as well. And this is kind of what I felt and why I say, like, whether Dave Prazak liked you or not, you made an opportunity in IW Mid-South for yourself, because these matches people know about. I don't know any other wrestler that people say, hey, I remember. But when people drop Mickie Knuckles and I say, hey, I'm speaking with Mickie Knuckles, everybody immediately gets deathmatch with you.
That's funny. That's funny. I mean, I love death matches, and you're wrong, by the way. So death match and hardcore is not the same thing. But you're right. I am a hardcore wrestler.
Fair enough. I'll take the lick on that one. I'll take the lick on that one.
All right.
But you
I have
are
to,
Very
I'm just keeping it
violent
real with you.
wrestler. Let's leave it
if,
at that.
if
We'll
nothing else, I try to be nice about it. I just, no, just joking. I don't care. Anyways, so what were we asking? What was the
So
question?
what was that like really entering, I guess, the deathmatch scene in wrestling? Because Queens of Death was the first time I feel like that was being done in America in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying I'm 100% accurate on my wrestling history, but that was insane. And even looking back now, and obviously deathmatch wrestling and that entire scene has gotten a lot bigger in America due to a variety of people. But even still, like you could put what you did in Queens of Death the first time up against some of the stuff that's being done now, and I think it still stands pretty well.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it was something that we were trying to do. We were trying to bring in the hardcore and deathmatch element to the female with the whole female roster. And the reason we were trying to do that is because I had been in King of the Death a couple of years, and Ian felt like maybe the crowd would like to see, a unique spectacle like an all-female deathmatch show. And I'm not sure why it didn't draw. I'm not sure. I know we had some problems too with keeping these girls booked. Some girls would take the bookings and then later on they cancel out. Like one girl's excuse was she just got a boob job and she didn't want to risk damaging her boob job, but you knew about this booking 3.5 months ago. See what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
priorities, man. You know when you're gonna get a boob job. You don't wake up one morning and you're like, you know what? I can't live without a boob job. Like I've never woke up and be like, I really just need a boob job, guys. I can't live another day without it. You know what I mean? Or somebody be like, well, I just got a new tattoo. I don't want it to get dirty or infected.
Yeah.
Bro, cover that shit up or something. Like, I'm sorry. You knew. And it made it really hard. And a lot of times, like, oh my God, I think the death matches, the Queen of the Death matches I did against Fisto in the main, that death match, we had so many girls cancel out that we actually did a round robin tournament. Ugh. And I had done double death the day before. So I was exhausted. I think I did 7 death matches in one weekend. And I was tired. And going into the finals with Fisto, you could see me come to the ring and I just look like I'm worn the fuck. I got road wet and hung up to dry. It was a bad day for me. And I didn't know how I did what I did. I'm happy I did it. She was happy about it. Everybody else was happy about it. It was a good time.
So I love Fisto. Fisto's like my crush. Totally would make a move. Would love to take Fisto out.
You talk about she's my crush. Boy, you better back up. No. Nay, my friend. I've had a crush on her since before I wrestled her. You better back up.
So I did get to interview Fisto, which is a very cool interview. 45 minutes of shooting on CCW. 45 minutes of it. Amazing interview. Super, super entertaining. And I love Fisto. And if I could, I would totally make a pass. I don't think I have the balls big enough to
I don't think your boyfriend's going to like that, though. I'm just being honest. He looks like a nice guy, though.
But anyhow, this is why I carry a 9mm anyway. It's such a bad joke. It's such a bad joke.
It's a terrible joke. Terrible. You'd be totally in the wrong for that. Here, let me hit on your girl. You're going to do something bad at Pop Pop. That's a terrible person. You're a bad person for even thinking that. You going to hell, my friend. I can't save you.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm Jewish, so I already know. Oh. It's even worse. But anyhow, getting back to this. So let's talk about the Fisto match because she is a beast, and she can go. I think, and she's got like a second win, a third win. Obviously, you got weapons in there, and this was a war. It's not a wrestling match anymore. This is a war. Obviously, you're exhausted from wrestling a bunch. She's a little bit exhausted from wrestling a bunch. I think it's a safe assumption. And now you're going at it, and the two of you are relatively young, and now this is going to get bloody. So what was that like for you? Because this is crazy, and obviously Lufisto was big. You're getting bigger in wrestling in your name, and this is the match everybody wanted to see.
So before the show started, I was nervous as fuck just about that match, because we had set it up the year before at Queen, where her and Vanessa Craven had attacked me in the cage, and we brought it back the next Queen. And so going into the finals against her, like, I was already excited and nervous, and I was like, okay, if I fuck up against her, I quit. Like, I'm just a piece of shit. I just need to quit immediately. And I wasn't even taking into consideration everything else we had to do, in order to be able to get to each other. You don't think about it. And then as you're going through the motions, things build. Like, this head bump spot, fucked you up first match. So then the second head bump spot, really fucks you up. And then you land on your shoulder on the third match. And so now your head and your shoulder and your arms are all fucked up, and you're tired, and
And
you've
what is
bled
that
all
like?
weekend.
Because,
Huh?
yeah, what is that like? Because cardio is very important, and when you're wrestling multiple matches, you can get exhausted very quickly. And also, the more matches you wrestle in a shorter period of time, the more things can go wrong. It's just logic. And
So
so,
when
obviously, getting to that point and then also having enough energy left to do a good job in that final, which is what everybody wanted to be there for. I mean, that's got to be playing out in your head a little bit.
it was more or less of, okay, so when I was training, I trained for almost 2 years. And the reason I trained for almost 2 solid years was because during training, I could do something a million times and fuck it up every time. But then we figured out, once I started wrestling in the ring in front of people, I'll hit it every time. So I don't know what mental issue I had, what kind of mental block I had from training to wrestling. But like, every single time I was able to do something because people were watching me. So I think if you take that and then apply it here. So now I have these several matches, these hardcore matches where it builds up. And yeah, cardio does help, but you can run on a treadmill for hours a day and still get blown up in the ring. Being in that ring is not like being on a treadmill. The bounce, the give, the take, the constant motion of the ring, the ropes, because you do get slingshotted, and sometimes you got to catch up. And when you're going 100 miles an hour, or when you're being aggressive, that cardio is way different than being on a treadmill or climbing a stair climber. That you've got to do in the ring. You've got to train on that. The other thing is you can lose your win. Your cardio could be shit. But if you got strong legs, you can keep going. You can push through it. You can endure. You can make it to the end, but your legs got to be strong. I remember the first day of training, they blew my legs up so bad. I was walking with a crutch to the car. I had
Holy
found a crutch in the
shit.
back that they had used for a death match. And I was like, fuck that. Like, my legs were hurt because every time I fucked something up, I'd never been trained before. I come straight from the backyard. So every time I'd fuck something up, a bump or, getting up the wrong way or anything, it was Hindu squats. 50 Hindu squats, 100 Hindu squats. The first day I know I did over 500 Hindu squats. Not to mention the other calisthenics that they make you do with the duck walks, and then you got to jump from the floor to the ring apron, from the ring apron to the second rope. Like, it's complete calisthenics, because you're not worthy to learn anything about that goddamn ring until you can condition yourself in it and put it up and know how it's put up and took down. You need to understand that as a trainee, and I knew that. So if you take consideration all that cardio, that calisthenics, everything that they had put me through for 2 years of training, 5 days a week, and then doing wrestling shows and everything else the other days a week, being through that for 2 years and then going to death matches like this, you're guaranteed I probably was fucking exhausted. But I was damn near determined. They gave me an ability. They gave me a stage to do it. I was not going to sit there and let them say, yeah, we told you.
And even to go further off of that, because obviously you're in a very high profile spot as well, and that can also affect you, where you're pumped up and your adrenaline is kicking, and that you're in front of a bunch of people, you're in front of another amazing woman wrestler, and now you're also adding weapons in there, and there's a lot of hype. And well, when you raise the temperature up, and then you fail, it's even worse than if it was just like the middle of the card, if that makes any sense. And
Yeah.
so, what was that like? Also, just the mental side of it, because that's
You
also
know,
taxing.
the greatest thing about working with Fisto is before the match, it's like a calm before the storm. It's like you both understand what needs to be done. You understand that you need to do it, and you need to do it. You need to go hard. Um, and I already knew that by watching her. I was a huge fan of Lufisto before I got to wrestle her. I had seen her CCW stuff, and I was just like, Jesus, I have to wrestle her. And before the match, I remember I was exhausted. We're sitting across the locker room from each other. We didn't say a word. And then they said, main event. And we went to get up. She looked at me. She's like, just leave it in the ring. I said, all right. She stepped through the curtain. Then I stepped through the curtain. And it literally was like that peaceful calm of whatever the fuck happens, it's in the ring. We're going to leave it here. But we're going to leave it here and do our fucking best because I'm not coming out with no regrets. And that's what we did. And it was beautiful. It was art. I loved every minute of that match. And even through the parts of, the transitioning periods between in that match, it wasn't done so obviously. It was done so poetically. And she is just magnificent to watch in the ring. Like I saw a petition before where Lufisto should be considered for a job in WWE, and they'd be dumb not to consider her. The amount of fucking knowledge
I
she
don't
has
think
in
she
her
should
head
go.
is incredible.
I think she'd be better in AEW. I think she'd have more
I
opportunity
think
in
she would,
AEW.
but it would. Lufisto's been doing this for a while, and she deserves the best deal. Let's say that. So whoever wants to offer her that best deal, that's who I'm for. But she
Fair,
deserves the
fair,
best
fair
deal.
enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. And I mean, she still has it, and I can't wait till she gets back into the U.S. circuit, because the only thing that's going on right now is the reason why she's not wrestling is because she's Canadian. And
I
she's
know.
up in Canada, from my understanding. And well, COVID's fucked up shit, and I think that's a fair assumption here. And well, traveling is going to be complicated. And then I know that Airborne Alex Anthony is in, a similar situation where he was supposed to go on a Canadian tour, and he's down in the U.S. So, it's tricky with all that shit that's going on. But obviously, even talking more about big names, you did a lot of work with Sammy Callihan too in IWA MidSouth. And obviously, I love Sammy and everything Sammy does. That guy turns everything to gold.
Oh, Sammy's crisp. He is crisp. He's effective. He's aggressive. He's assertive. Sammy is the legitimate badass. He's a force to be reckoned with. I love watching Sammy work. I love his promos. I love everything about him
I
because it's
think he
authentic
got.
to him. You can tell he actually he embodies whatever he's depicting at that moment, and you buy that. And that right there is just gold. It's gold.
I think he is an amazing talent. I think WWE had no idea what to do with him. I think Impact knows exactly what to do with him, and I think they could do a hell of a lot more with him. And I think he should have had a longer run as champion. I really think. I think he would have been phenomenal for a good another 6 months minimum, and it
Yeah.
should have been put on him. And given the way things turned out, I think it was the wrong move for Impact. I think it cost them a lot of fans and a lot of money.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I try not to look at it from the political or business aspect of it because then I feel like I get burnt out. Um,
I'm looking at it from my selfish, because I just wanted him as champion. I don't really care about the money. I wanted him as champion because the stories that could have been told would have been amazing, and the matches that could have been had would have been amazing. And as a fan, and the way that guy, because I believe what Sammy does. Like I genuinely believe, and I'm like, you are making me a follower. Like, you're the bad guy in this storyline, and I want to be on your side. And that's how I feel about Sammy Callihan. I do not feel that same way about, Kenny Omega. Because and I like Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is beyond talented, but Kenny Omega does not make me want to be on his side and be a loyal follower. And it's an art to do that.
But maybe I don't know. I don't know like what's in store for it. You never know. Like people can use, and I'm not saying you're complaining, but people complain about booking all the time, and it's fine. It's your opinion, and you're right. And I love all the different storylines everybody comes up with. Okay, so I don't even know what I'm gonna do until I do it. No, I'm being honest. If anybody books me for anything, it's literally like I don't know what I'm gonna do until I do it. When I cut promos, I usually do them in one take, and I always do them like on the tip of my tongue and what's on my mind, and I just go with it because it feels authentic to me and natural to me, and that's what feels best to me. So, with that being said, I can't say what another company does with their booking.
Fair enough.
But I appreciate your opinions, and I appreciate how passionate you are about him. And maybe if more
No. I just
people
want to see him
voice
do what he
that, they would
does.
put him back on that top. But
And to talk about him, because you teamed up with him and Jon Moxley.
yeah,
And
that
you
was
didn't just
fun.
team up with them. You teamed up with them in that Taipei death match against the Hooligans, which is Devin Cutter, uh,
With yep.
with
Go
what
ahead.
is it? Mason Cutter, and Neil Diamond Cutter,
Uh-huh.
and Sweet Caroline. I'm not gonna sing it. I don't want to get a flag on YouTube. But what was that match like? Because that's crazy. I mean, this is like Ohio Central.
It was painful. My leg was still broke. No, being serious. There was an 1.5 inch gap between the two pieces of bone. The rod was the only thing holding it in place. But for some reason, the doctors couldn't explain it.
Catch everybody up on what was going on, because for those who don't know,
Hi.
obviously stuff was sort of happening where you had an injury and then you're now wrestling with an injury.
Yes, I was wrestling with a broken femur. And I had the surgery, and then in April of the following year, November of that year, they told me I was healed. So I tried to exercise and stuff, but I couldn't run and I couldn't jump and I couldn't lift my leg to the side. I was having real issues. And I kept going back and telling them, and they told me everything from it was phantom pains to I was just trying to get pain pills. Mind you, I didn't take pain pills. I smoked weed, and I was good with that. And I was like, whatever. So I went back in April. So from November to April, I'm wrestling. And I had that match with me, Jon Moxley, Sammy Callihan versus the Hooligans. And you have some, Maria. Thank you. And I told them, afterwards, but I told them afterwards, my leg was still broke. The doctor came in after the x-ray and said, they pulled up the x-rays from November. They don't know why they told me it was healed. It was still broke. They were going to have to do a second surgery, but because it was technically cosmetic, I'd have to get it approved through or whatever it was. And so I had to apply for that. And so I had to wait for that to happen. While I was waiting for that to happen, I wrestled. And actually might have been while I was wrestling, I knew about it. Yeah, because I do remember I told them it was broke, and Moxley's like, all right, you want to get drunk with us? And I said, sure. If all y'all getting drunk, I'm getting drunk too. I wasn't going to be the odd man out, whatever. And it was so much fun. Like, it was a good time. We sat in the back of that U-Haul drinking beers before the match. And then, like, the ref comes up and he's like, so what's going on? We were like, we don't know. Whatever happens, happens. And we just went out there and we just had fun. It was a good time.
Jon Moxley is a very interesting guy
I have
in a lot of
nothing bad to
ways.
say about him.
And one of the things that people don't know is that he used to live on Speedway points. So yeah, Jon Moxley, there's the story that Aaron Williams told on my other show, and Jon Moxley had a beat up car, that he had no headlights that worked at night, and so he couldn't drive at night. He
Mm-hmm.
also used to have like little to no money, and he used to live on Speedway points. So Speedway points, it's a gas station, and that you get points for picking your gas. And then he would get enough points that he would like be able to buy a sandwich with his points. And so he used to live like on Speedway points, which is crazy for where he is, because he is very much a guy who loves wrestling and went from extreme humble beginnings really all the way to the top. And everything he's done has been for the love of wrestling. And most people do not know his journey, and it is amazing. When you say, "Hey, I got drunk with him," I know exactly who he is in that regard. And so I know exactly how that match went and what he has done. And so what was that like, even working with him and where he's gone? Because it's very cool when you're in those circumstances.
I love working with Mox. I don't have a bad thing to say about him. Like, he was always carefree, easygoing. He talked to anybody and everybody. He was just Mox. Like, Mox was a great guy. He was a fun guy. We'd hang out. He'd tell these crazy ass stories. I'm not going to repeat most of them. And, but I mean,
now I want to know all of
them. He was like my
them.
crazy cousin. Like, that's how I felt about him. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I could see him being at my family reunion. Bunch of redheads.
And what I love about a lot of this is that I feel like you were really becoming bigger at this point, and a lot of these matches and these death matches, as I stated, were really building out who you were and getting attention. And obviously, you also were wrestling for WSU at the time, and you had some amazing matches against Sahara Knight, Amy Lee, Jules Malone in an uncensored rules match, which I don't even know what that is still. It's all I know is crutches were used.
Okay, listen. I have to put a disclaimer on that match. Okay, if nobody's ever seen it, here's what happened. What happened was, I was getting ready for the match. We were told we were up, and I was mentally preparing for this match. And DJ Hyde came up to me. He said, "Mickie, we have a problem." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "It's supposed to be women's superstars uncensored." I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" He said, "Where's the uncensored?" I said, "Okay, whoa. Before we go any further, what am I not allowed to do?" He said, "Ask for forgiveness later." And I was like, okay. So I took that as do whatever it took. And I asked ahead of time. I said, I had a meeting with her. I said, "Look, I love you. We're here, okay? If you say no, I'm okay with that. But I have some ideas. I'm going to throw them at you and see what you say." And she said she loved it. And I said, "Game on." So I went with it. And, yeah, that's what happened. So before you go into the thing about the crutch, just understand that we had a conversation ahead of time about this. I approached her respectfully and said that there was ideas. What do you think? So
I will use polite codes now at this point.
You ain't gotta use nothing. I'm giving a disclaimer because you're gonna say something that's gonna make me look terrible. It's gonna make me look like a bad person. I just want you to keep in the back of your brain.
I actually applaud.
We had an understanding, a verbal agreement. I didn't get anything in writing, but I didn't think it was necessary. She said okay. I said all right.
I believe the crutch found a cave.
What?
I think that's the way you to put it. The crutch found a cave, right?
Sure. The crutch found the cave. I bit the cave. I headbutted the cave. She stapled my cave. There was a lot of cave entrances. Some kind of woolly bears. Who knows?
It's going down south on the human body is another way to put it. I thought it. I mean,
that wasn't smooth at all. That was not. You gotta work on your analogies, man. Oh, that was like terrible. Terrible. You should have said south without the pole. I mean, that would have been like clever. You can use that.
Clearly. So fair enough. This is the best interview I've ever done. Clearly. This is number 73 of the year. So this is going to the top of the list. I'm going to promote this thing
Oh,
heavy. It's going to be amazing because I've been wanting to do this interview for like 3 years too, which is even worse.
I'm
So
eating dinner while we're talking, so.
that's perfectly fine. I really should have gotten a beer and it would have been perfect. But even to do something like that, because this is intense, obviously, it is very aggressive. It is probably something that hasn't been done much before. Um, and
Wait, what are we
yeah,
talking about now? Because I'm going totally different. You've already started talking about dirty things, and now you're talking about this, and I don't know if they're associated, and I don't want to go any
no,
further
no, no,
because
I'm
I'm
talking
afraid I'm
about
gonna say
this
something to
match.
get canceled. So,
I'm talking about this match of bringing it to that extreme, and then
oh,
I don't want to say crossing a line per se, because obviously it was all agreed to some degree, but like even doing that on a show, because again, it's always better to ask for forgiveness and say, hey, maybe we went too far versus not going far enough.
oh, my phone's gonna die. No, but like I've done that a few different times. One time I've done it was a JCW show for ICP. Before I went through the curtain, they said, or before we even started the show, they were like, okay, we need you to do something crazy. And I said, what do you want me to do? They said, I don't know. What do you have? And I said, do you want me to tell you about it or just do it? He said, just do it. And I said, okay. So I was managing Bull at the time because Tracy was taking time off. And we get in the ring and we start cutting this promo. And so I'm like, oh, Bully Poo, I just absolutely love the fact that Daddy's away because I was doing the Isabel Smothers gimmick, which is Tracy's daughter. And he's like, yeah, but you got to keep it on the down low. I was like, what do you mean keep it on the down low? And I basically insinuated I gave him a blowjob on the way to the show. He's like, yeah, but everybody knows blowjobs doesn't count. So then I proceeded to walk over to the turnbuckle and put my foot up on the second on turnbuckle. And I said, you know what? I'm happy you said that because 2 weeks ago you left something. And I had found a condom in Jimmy Jacob's backpack.
Oh my
Unused
God.
condom. He let me have it. And I took some lotion and I squirted a little bit of lotion in this condom. And then I was like, where am I going to hide this? Right. Aha. I always wear 2 pairs of Spanx because, we don't need that popping out all the shows. Right. So we'll get canceled. And I put it in between the 2 pieces of Spanx. So when I put my foot up on the second turnbuckle, I pulled it out and left it dangling. I said, because you left something 2 weeks ago. And he slapped it out of my hand and it went into the crowd and the crowd separated and stayed the fuck away from that thing the rest of the goddamn show. And we were like right after intermission. So they still had like 4 or 5 matches and there was the perfect circle around this thing right in the dead center. They were like, fuck that shit. We're not that nasty hoe really just pulled that out of her cooter. So I get in the back and Shaggy and Violent J are looking at me and I was like, so what do we think? And they were like, Jesus Christ. And they just walked away. And I was like, I'm guessing that's a win for the team. I don't know. So, yeah. Let's just say I'm
So
absurd.
so so to even do that because I like pushing the line in what I do. And I speak to a lot of writers, I speak to a lot of comic people, and I know plenty of people who love pushing the line in a variety of methods. And I think that it's always better to push the line and see how far you can go with something because that's how we evolve as people. That's how we evolve in wrestling in many ways. And so, what was that like to even do something like that, or where does that idea come from?
Sorry, what?
Where does that
There's a
idea
food situation right now, and I'm a fat kid.
So where does that idea even to come from to do something like that? Because that's crazy to me, and
Do
I
something
wouldn't
like
even know
what?
where to begin to pull out a condom with lotion in it and toss it
I
into the
really
crowd.
am crazy. You all think I'm joking. I am legit fucking cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I just use it to my advantage. Like, I just
That's
think,
crazy.
what would a crazy bitch do? And I'm like, aha, I can do that. That's what I'm going to do.
I also like how it's Jimmy Jacobs is unused condom too that you borrowed it from. I
It
think
wasn't
that's
unused condom, though. I was so happy. I was so happy. Yeah. So
I,
he was
I, I
nice
think I
enough.
think
I
that's
said,
the
does anybody
icing.
have a condom? And he was nice enough. He said, oh, I got one without even questioning me. She gave me a condom.
That's
Like, all right,
hilarious.
Jimmy. He's a pro.
That's hilarious in so many ways, but for all the right reasons too. All the right reasons. So I do want to talk about Queen and King Ring 2014 because you got to work with MattTremont, and obviously that's kind of perfect as far as both your styles. And MattTremont is obviously one of those legendary deathmatch wrestlers. And what was that like getting to work with him? Because that was wild, for lack of a better word, and perfect team
I
in many ways.
I will go on record and say I love Matt and his wife Chrissy like they're my own family. I'll do anything I can for them any day of the week. Like it just felt like I found my kinfolk. Like he was so easy to talk to. And it's like I knew him forever. And I don't know, he was just the sweetest, kindest person. And then you turn around and you meet his wife, who's just amazing. Like she's so strong, and like Matt and her are just the perfect team. And then you get to wrestle in the ring with this guy that you have seen over in Japan. Like you've watched his matches over there. You've seen him down, everywhere. Jesus. And so I was afraid I was going to get lost in the music because I was afraid, I wasn't at that level with them. And he never once made me feel inferior to him. And he felt like I could do what we needed to do. And I felt very, very happy and very included. And I can't thank him enough. So like I said, I'll do
And,
anything and everything I can for them.
and then one of the things also that's super important, I think, about this is that anytime anybody gets to wrestle against MattTremont, whether that's a death match or just a regular match, it is in many ways a privilege. And obviously, he's now retired for the time being, and
Mm-hmm.
he's running H2O, and I think he's doing a phenomenal job, and he's fostering
Great.
the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
But he's brought a lot of deathmatch wrestling back to the U.S. And it is super important, and getting that, and then being in a match with him, and even being around what he's done, because it's sort of, he's a legendary figure in wrestling. He is beyond important, and getting that opportunity, because 2014 wasn't what it is today, where a lot of what's going on in wrestling right now is you never know who is going to get signed somewhere, and your first match might be your last match with them. And obviously in 2014, I don't think that was the case per se, but it is now. But even still, you never know when you're not going to get another chance to wrestle somebody. And to be on that list that you got to wrestle with him, I mean, that must mean something to you beyond, because now he's still young, but he's obviously in a different position now as far as fostering the next generation, as I stated.
Here's a funny thing. You keep saying his last name like that, and Pondo makes fun of me for the way I say his last name, and so that's why I'm kind of laughing in my head.
I might be saying it wrong. I'm not,
I
I'm the
don't think
first
you
person.
are. I think maybe Pondo's right and I am, but I'm too stubborn to change it. I say I say Tremont.
I mean, it could be that too. I don't know. I've been
But
corrected on
see,
it.
he says I say Leva Bates wrong too, and I say Leva Bates. I don't know how I say it wrong.
I say Leva. Like
See, that's what he says. And I don't really care because every time I say, hey, Leva, she's like, what's up? So she answers, what does it matter?
she was my second interview on my
I
other
love
show,
her.
which is
She's so
crazy.
funny.
And then Rolling Stone interviewed her right like a week after. I'm like, great guys, stealing my thunder. And it's kind of crazy. I just reached out. It's super weird how this all happens, and my life is fascinating in that way. Obviously, I'm not too sure, but we're gonna have a conference call with Matt on how his last name is supposed to be pronounced.
I know I'm saying it wrong, but he's never corrected me. So
He might be
is
just
it
a
really
little
my
too
fault?
nice.
He
He
is.
might be a little too nice. And then I do want to talk about Girl Fight, because Girl Fight's fun, and I like what you've done in Girl Fight, and you've had some serious fights in Girl Fight.
Mhm.
And Diamante D Rose, Jessica Havoc, Sue Young, Kira Hogan. Yeah, and then you've also had a bunch of people who are brand new in wrestling, such as Aja Pereira, Hudson Evie, Charlie Cruel, And so obviously that type of stuff is awesome. And then obviously Maria Manic, she's scary. You had a dog collar match with her. What the fuck's the matter with you on that one? Like, that's insane.
I don't know what you mean. I didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? It wasn't me. Can't prove it. No, listen, so Mana and Pondo is doing a great thing with Girl Fight Wrestling. And they have produced a lot of great matchups, a lot of good, entertaining shows. And the thing with Girl Fight Wrestling is a little different. Instead of us having a home base, we go to other companies and their girls against our girls. And it's a good match off. It gets their girls, some work with other people who they don't normally get to work with, and vice versa. And we're all the better for it because, their fans now see another way of women's wrestling. And Pondo's really helped with doing that. I mean, he did that just by being traveling carny show. Right now, we have so many great young talent, and there's one talent that just, as soon as she turns 18, she'll get signed.
Oh, I know who it is.
And she's my daughter's favorite wrestler, which really fucking gets in my craw. But
does she have a pet rabbit?
Yes, she does. Yeah, I got the Christmas card finally.
Is her home base St. Louis by any chance?
Sure. She gets on my damn nerves sometimes, but I love her to death. Billy Starks, yeah. So.
I know. She follows me on Twitter, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And she's stupid good. Stupid good. It's like, oh my god.
She's so fucking smart, man. She makes straight A's and she's in honor classes. She's like a fucking genius. Yeah, she's gonna do real good.
She's stupid good.
And she's taking Japanese too. Hello, Japan. What's up? That's where she wants to go. She's taking Japanese so she can go to Japan.
I know. It's crazy. Me and her had like a 45-minute conversation off the air. It's wild. And she's just stupid good. And I don't know how she became this good. And I make the statement every time. I say she is wrestling's best kept secret. That and if that's what the future of wrestling looks like, wrestling is in good hands. And it's
I'm gonna point this out right now. There ain't no way in hell is she ever gonna be taken advantage of, because her mama and her dad they lock it down. So if anybody else out there has got like a inkling in your brain that you're going to take advantage of this 16-year-old girl, and if I find out about it, I don't care. I ain't got to be booked to drive in a car.
So
that's a road trip. I'll take my friends. We'll get psyched up on the way there. I don't care what I got to do. I'll drink freaking Red Bull all the fucking way there. I don't care. Give a damn.
So what is this like for you though? Because obviously Charlie Cruel's another one that's pretty good and is part of this new generation. Kenzia Page is also a part of that generation as well, and obviously Billy is too. I got in trouble from somebody. Quinn McKay went after me on Twitter for saying Billy Starks was phenomenal.
You forgot Alice Crawley.
That's another one
and
that's part of this generation.
Hollywood, Haley James.
Yeah, and there's a few others that their names are slipping me, but the idea is that you've worked with a lot of these women, and obviously you're the veteran, and they're new. And what is that like for you, knowing that the next generation is sort of here and that they're ready for it and that they can bring a fight to you and that you're getting to work with the next generation, you're getting them over to some degree, as well as you're also having amazing matches with them, because that matters. And I think it's really cool because there's a thing in wrestling where I feel like some wrestlers don't give back, and I feel like you give back.
Well, here's the thing. So I tell them I'm like the crazy aunt, Mickie. I bring the hookers and the drugs. What I really mean is it's not my job to degrade or demean any other person or human being in this wrestling business. If you're going to put your heart and soul into something, I can respect that aspect. As long as we're respectful to each other, that's great. You start to be a disrespectful twat, there's not much I can do to help you. These girls that are coming in though, I can't think of one person off the top of my head that's been so fucking disrespectful that I'm just like, girl, you're making me I'm gonna be a bitter bitch in this business. I'm not gonna fucking like any of yous. Not one girl has ever rubbed me off that rubbed me off. Oh, that's terrible. Ugh. I'm gonna throw up now. Not one girl has ever made me feel that way. Okay. And when I first met Billy, I met Charlie at the same time, and I saw so much potential in both of them. Charlie has a unique way with learning things, and I don't know if it's because I have kids, and maybe when I had kids and everything else I've ever been through in my life, maybe that's the reason I oh, where'd you go? I lost you.
I think I'm still here.
My phone's gonna die.
This is not,
okay, there you are.
There we go.
But I started working with them, trying to make sure, because it's hard not to learn bad habits in the beginning, because what's good for them is not necessarily good for you. And the same goes with training. It's not just training girls is different than guys. That's not what I mean. Training people, each person learns in different ways. And one way is not necessarily better than the other. It's just the way they learn. And being able to understand that and adapt to that, just having that little bit of patience. I worked with Charlie and I worked with Billy, and I'm just mesmerized. I'm so proud. I know that I'm not going to have to be that better in the locker room that fucking hates everybody, because these girls are doing a great job. And as long as they continue doing this great job, then, it gives me hope for what the future of female in this business will be. And that hopefully one day, no longer will the title women wrestler be associated with women. They'll be known as a wrestler. That's my hope with all this. That's my hope with the death matches. That's my hope with the hardcore matches. That's my hope with wrestling, is I just want to be a wrestler. I just want to be equal. I don't want somebody to say, oh, because it's a she can't do this. Or she won't be able to do this as good as a man. So and I think these girls are going to be able to continue on with that and continue to plow down those barriers. And that makes me happy, because then if my daughter chooses to do this, by the time she comes in this business, she'll have a path. And it'll still be a hard path, but it'll be a lot fucking easier than we had it. And that's my goal.
And I'm going to add another name into this from H2O that was just recent, as Kennedy Copeland. And I think she in many ways should be included in this as well. And I know this was Hardcore Kingdom 5 tournament, the first round. Mm-hmm. And obviously Kennedy, she has come a long way. Do you guys see this bruise
on my face right here? Like, she got me. There's a boot print on my face. I went to work and they were like, what? And I was like, I fell. I don't know how to explain it. I was
obviously, when I saw that match and it was announced, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good, because it has to be. And she has become very, very good in a very short amount of time. Mm-hmm. And she's another one who's like stupid good. And so it's one of those things. And even being in H2O, and because I don't know if you were in H2O before, but obviously that's MattTremont's promotion and all that stuff. Being streaming on IWTV is very cool. Live, obviously, is a big tournament. There is, a real spotlight for it. You're in a very cool arena. Obviously, H2O, they built their arena, I think. And it's a cool place to wrestle in. And so what was that like? And obviously she beat you, and, that's good for her. And then it was an intense match.
Man, I threw a lot at her. I beat her ass. But I did that with the intention of I wanted to see what she had. Because she had this big reputation of being this new upcomer doing these death matches against these guys, and I do no favors being nice to anybody. Now, I'm not in it to kill anybody, but if you're going to play in this game, we play hard, and this is what we do. And I whooped the shit out of her. Then she started fighting back, and she was waylaying the fuck out of me. And I remember when I got her off of me, I couldn't help but to smile a little bit. Because I was like, there we are. There we go. It's cool. I'm one of those people, if I get in a bar fight, it's no fair if I'm the only person fighting somebody. I mean, come on. It's fair for tit for tat. Anyway, but she started fighting back, and then she wouldn't quit. I pinned her, several times on the outside. I tried to pin her in the ring. I fucking slammed her, and my ass is huge. I'm sorry. She rolled me up, and I couldn't get out from underneath my ass. It happens. I'll learn next time. Don't do that. But she got it.
So what is that like for you? Because it's obviously, you're in a real fight, and you're giving it, and then somebody's giving it right back to you. And that must be nice to some degree when somebody's like, "Yeah, you're bringing a fight to me. I'm going to bring the fight right back to your doorstep." And obviously, I think you enjoy that a little.
Mixed up, I've got a messed up genealogy going on in me. I'm Irish, Italian, and Native American Indian. Just pointing this out. I'm pretty fucking crazy, and I know how to fight and drink and smoke. So, I'm ready for anything. I'm ready to have a good time. It's cool when I get to beat up my friends, and we're still friends afterwards. There ain't no hard feelings. It's like a fight club that everybody gets to talk about, So I'm good with this, and I just earned a new friend. I meant what I said. I'd love to see a queen rule that kingdom. Apparently I was not meant to do it, but like I said, every bitch has their day. They do. What are you gonna do? You can either let it defeat you or roll with the punches.
And I mean, I just think it's really cool.
And
I think
you know what I think about it now is I'm not necessarily sure if my shoulders were all the way down. I'm just pointing it out. If you look it back, we need to watch it back, and I need some opinions. I don't think my shoulders were down. That's probably. I'm just saying. If you can comment or whatever you do, start a Facebook thread. Was her shoulders down? I might have to get up a ref. My phone is going to die by the way.
Well, I'm going to try to get you out of here before that happens. Okay. I promise. And if it'll be perfect if it ends right then and there. But anyhow, obviously, I do want to talk about COVID and the future of wrestling. With COVID, obviously messed up everything in wrestling, and then now wrestling's starting to come back. But there are precautions. There's been a lot of family shows. And where do you think it's going, wrestling and everything in that realm? And where do you think it's going to be going as we sort of turn the corner with COVID?
You guys got to look at the history of mankind. We got to do some research, y'all, as individuals and as a group. So if you look at the history of mankind, throughout history, there has been periods where there has been a wide outbreak of something. It could be influenza. It could have been smallpox. It could be polio. It could be Ebola, whatever. There have been small outbreaks of these viruses, right?
Yeah.
But after we get these vaccines and after people become exposed to this virus and pass it through their bodies naturally and build up their own immunities and things, we go back to living. And that's what people like. I don't know if it's because it's the most recent crisis in history. I don't know if it's because it really did, cut down our elderly population by a lot, and it hurt a lot of adults with pre-existing conditions. And
do you also think it's social media related as well, where everybody's on social media and then a bunch of misinformation is being thrown around and everybody's communicating in real time?
I think any media outlet, whether it's social media, news media, any media outlet is going to have those people who peddle false information for their own political agenda. I think it's our responsibility to look into the information, read the viable resources, go to Johns Hopkins University, website and look at that, a viable resource. Somebody you can trust that what they say is true, because they don't only do their test over here. They
Yeah.
take the test subjects or the test studies from each individual country, and they gather
Hmm.
as a whole because they're not government ran. Look to these people who do these types of research, not for any beneficial gain. You have to really look, but you can find it. Do your own research, because at the end of the day, you'll understand, yeah, this is terrible. Absolutely terrible. But just like every other virus in the history of mankind, we will prevail. We're going to move on. We're going to build up those antibodies. And in however many years, there'll be another outbreak of something else. And we'll be combated with trying to find a vaccine for it and dealing with it in that manner and time. We don't know. But we can't stop and ceasing to exist, because what kind of life is that? All
Yeah.
we can do is do what we're each responsible for and take responsibility for ourselves. Wash your fucking hands. It is not that hard. You know how many times I'm in the bathroom and it grosses me out. I'll be in the bathroom and I'll hear a toilet flush and I hear the lady walking out of the stall and I hear her walk right past that fucking sink and out into the area that, the food dining area or whatever place I'm at that time, not washing her GD hands. You know how bad that disgusts that? Like I'm sitting on, I can't even do it. Like there's two hard no's and it's poop and pee. I can't do it. I will throw the fuck up. I just, no, I can't do it. Okay, wash your hands, sanitize your hands. It's not that hard. Common decency, Nobody else wants to eat your shit. I'm just being honest. Your shit does stink. We don't want it.
Fair enough, fair enough. And obviously, I think humanity's going to come out of this, but obviously I think that it's going slower, and I think slow makes sense in a lot of ways, because maybe it takes 6 months more versus saying 3 months more, but we're all safer for it in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And I'm not going to
Just
lie,
be
COVID has
responsible.
benefited. I'm
Just
I'm
be a
not going to lie,
decent human
COVID.
being. That's all I ask. That's all I
I'm not
want.
going to
Just be
lie.
human. Huh?
I mean, I'm not going to lie that COVID has benefited me because it forced me to make a digitalization pivot in my business. And this project started because of COVID. And I wish it didn't start in a lot of ways with everything that bad has happened with COVID. But I think a lot of good is coming out of this. And I think people are also going to be a lot more appreciative of entertainment and when wrestling comes back in a lot of ways, because I think a lot of people have taken this stuff for granted. And you know what it is? I think when wrestling shows really come back, they're like, I'm happy to be outside again. And that I understand that seeing somebody is not a right, it is a privilege in a lot of ways. And so I'm hoping that really translates over in a lot of ways.
I mean,
And so on that note, obviously I want to give you an opportunity to promote what you got, because I know you have a pro wrestling tease. I don't know if you got some upcoming wrestling dates coming up that you can announce. If not, I'm sure you have some stuff that
ICW
you
this
can
weekend,
announce.
Saturday. ICW Milwaukee, Saturday. I'm got coming up, and I'm hoping I earn a spot into the Insane Eight. That's my goal, is to go there, show the fuck out, and see if they like it.
And then obviously, where can people find you on Twitter? Because obviously you follow me on Twitter, but I want people to follow you
Just
on
type
Twitter.
in
I want
Mickie
people,
Knuckles everywhere. It's Mickie Knuckles, Mickie Knuckles, Mickie Knuckles.
and then your pro wrestling tees is up above or down below on YouTube. Got that covered. So obviously buy the merch.
Oh, and
Super super important.
what is the other company? Deathmatch. Deathmatch Worldwide. I have t-shirts on Deathmatch Worldwide as well. So check them out. Get some.
And then obviously, as I stated, buy the merch, everybody. That's what we're here for, and I've been saying it over and over again. You have to support your favorite indie people. And that can mean twofolds. The first, obviously, go to wrestling shows that they're in. That is super important. Obviously do it safely. Don't show to a no fan show and be a fan, obviously. But if there's 100 tickets, buy a ticket to see your favorite wrestler. And then secondly, if they have T-shirts, whether that's Pro Wrestling Tees or World Deathmatch Wide or Deathmatch Worldwide, I'm not exactly sure the full thing, but obviously buy the shirts off of there. It is important. 8x10s may or may not be up there, or any type of merch just in general, because that does go a long way and it does make a difference, especially with COVID, and it does a lot of good. And also, it's super important to do that. But if you are in a financial hardship, and believe me, I've shored up a lot of assets in my life, and that I am definitely watching my budget as of lately. I understand it, that if you cannot afford to do it because you're taking care of your family and you have debt, please take care of yourself. Make sure your mortgage is covered, your rent's covered, food, water, electricity. If you have husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, if you have kids, make sure they're all good. Make sure your pets are good. Make sure you have money for the next month. What you should be doing is supporting on social media. That means Twitter following, Instagram following, Facebook following. All that stuff is free, goes a long way. If Mickie is wrestling, you should be tweeting at her while she's in her match if it's live. That does make a difference. It is super important in that realm.
And I like reading
And so
them. I think it's great. I love people's opinions and feedback. So,
and so obviously on all that, I cannot emphasize doing both of those things. And one of them is free. The other, buy a shirt of your favorite wrestler is a big deal, and it does make a difference. And obviously, go to wrestling shows when they reopen. But on that note, I'm going to give you an opportunity for the final word. So feel free to say anything you want to say.
So here's the thing. So I do need to say something that's been heavy on my mind today. I've had a couple people contact me, and maybe I shouldn't do this here, but I'm going to do it here because why not take advantage of it?
The floor is yours. You can shoot whatever you want to shoot.
Yeah. So I've had
as long as I'm not being attacked, I'm okay.
No, you're not being attacked. I don't think so. But I've had a couple people contact me telling me that I should form an opinion that should lose me business and lose fans the opportunity to see me somewhere live just because of another person that might be booked on that card. And I've had promoters reach out to me and ask me if I would still honor a booking I took if they hired somebody on a card. I'm going to put this out there right now, and this will be the end of it because I don't like this shit. I try to stay far away from it, but you know what? I really feel like it needs to be addressed just one time. So with that being said, unless you have been convicted of a sex crime, I don't care. I don't care your political views. I don't care your religious views. I don't care. We don't have to talk about any of that in the locker room. You know what my religious view is? I'm not. I'm very spiritual. I believe you do unto others. You treat others how you want to be fucking treated. And at the end of the day, why should I form an opinion on something that does not affect my life one way or the other just because they happen to be in the same locker with me? So with that being said, if you have ever done a sex crime, don't come near me. I will fuck you up. Like, seriously, fuck you up. But other than that, I don't really care. I mean, that there's don't start messaging me and be like, well, what about this? What about that? There's always circumstances that are outside the norm that I'm like, all right, I wouldn't. Please don't send me hate mail. I'm not a hateful person. What I'm saying is, I don't care. If they're a good wrestler, if fans want to see them, if promoters want to book them, who the fuck am I to judge anybody? So I don't care. So with that being said, I don't want to talk about it no more. I don't want to address it anymore. It is what it is. You know my standpoint on it. I'm a very blunt person. Don't give a shit. Like, this is how I feel. So to all the promoters that have sent me messages, thank you for at least trying to consider my feelings. I don't care. To all the people who send me messages, your prerogatives are not my prerogative. So with that being said, I don't care. Yeah, I don't. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect my kids. It doesn't affect anything else. But sex crimes. we're gonna have a nice talk. It's gonna be a nice talk.
I'm pretty sure that to sum it up also, and just to add to it to make it crystal clear, and correct me if I'm wrong. As long as somebody's doing their job in the wrestling ring, what does anything else have to do with it, how they think about something? Because you can make the same argument that they don't like Fast, Furious 8.
Am I going to go out to every person in that crowd and be like, hey, what do you believe in? What do you think? What's going on in your brain? What religion are you? What political beef do you have? Why? That's not my job. That's not their job. That's not our relationship. Our relationship is not that. I shouldn't form an opinion on something you believe because that's stupid. Because who am I to try to judge you and teach you and tell you how you should think and how you should be? That's the most selfish fucking thing I've ever heard of one human being trying to do to other fucking human beings. I'm sorry. I'm
It's
sorry. And
pretty.
if you hate me for it, get in
Nobody
line. I've got a
hates
lot of
you.
people who hate me for a lot of different things.
I guarantee you, more people are thinking like you than think like the others, because the people that
Even
I
if they're
found
not, man,
who
even if they're not, I've always thought and walked my
most
own beat. So
my theory, and I speak to a lot of people every year now, most people are pretty reasonable, and what you just stated is very, very reasonable. It is, unfortunately, in our society, it is the ends that are extremes that are the loudest, and most people in America, for the most part, are
like I said, there's
beyond reasonable.
exceptions to every rule, and I don't want influx of emails saying, "What about this?
You're
What
not
about
going to
that?"
get it.
You
Nah,
and
you're
I
not going to
both
get it.
know there's exceptions to every freaking rule, but if it hasn't harmed a human being, you know what I mean? If it hasn't caused mass harm to somebody or a child or a female, you get what am I saying here? If it
Oh yeah,
hasn't, if it
yeah.
hasn't affected the laws of nature, I guess I mean I don't know.
No, I know
Then
exactly what you mean. I
who
think
am
everybody
I? Who am
knows.
I to say how you believe and what you think is wrong? Because at the end of the day, we don't know. I could die tomorrow and wake up in a sheep's body and be like, "Holy shit, they were right." Now I'm a sheep. Like this is some fucked up shit. Like
Obviously, I think nobody's gonna send you hate mail, and here's
yeah, they
why
will.
nobody's gonna send you hate mail,
Oh yeah,
because
they will.
what you just stated, and if somebody sends you hate mail, they're on one of the extremes, and unfortunately, both of the extremes are the ones who do it, and they don't, because most people agree with you on this point, and I think that it's just one of those things that people make a big deal out of it when it's really not. And I think that that's something that people just need to grow up a little bit. People have different opinions on different things, and you know what it is? It's a perfect example. I tend to be an atheist. I am
Opinions
not
are like
religious.
assholes. Everybody has one.
Exactly. I'm an atheist. I'm not very religious.
Who am I to
I
judge you,
and
man?
then but if you're religious, I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I could be wrong.
Like I
Okay.
said, I'm just a spiritual person. I just believe in being good, sending good out in the
And
world.
so
Maybe I'll get it back. That's it.
and my viewpoint is simple: is that I believe that I am I build good relationships with people, and I get taken care of. And when people don't take care of me, that's fine. Somebody didn't take care of me, they just get kicked out of my life in a very polite way, and that's how I feel. So obviously, I'm going to let you also have, I guess, the final word on maybe something more positive, or what you want to say. Anything else for that matter? Floor is yours again.
Well, there is a ton of shows getting ready to boom because regulations are starting to be lifted, restrictions are starting to be lifted, people are getting vaccinated, or people just building up their own immunities, whatever happens. So I'm telling you right now, if you say you can't find a show to go to near you, I say you are insane. The internet is a vast resource to find all information on wrestling. Go into Facebook, go into Google, whatever you got to do. Type in wrestling near me. I don't care. Find something, go see if you like it. It's so much different than a WWE house show and the big companies. Like an independent wrestling show has a way different feel and vibe. You have to experience it.
I will say this, and then we're going to wrap it up right now, that there is a website devoted to indie wrestling shows, and I think they have 95% accuracy. So I will most likely include that in the comments down below. So if you can't find a wrestling show on that website, and it might take a month or two for them to get back up to date on everything, with everything coming back up, but
Dude, if you
they're
know
going to.
you're from my area and you want to go to a show that I'm on, hit me up. Like, you got room in the car? We will make it available. I can't promise you ain't going to get weirded out. I can't promise some shenanigans ain't going to happen because I usually take my sister with me and, um, Well, we're not allowed to talk about it outside of the circle because we all made a pact. But it's a good time. You have to sign a waiver before you get in the car that you won't say nothing to nobody, but you won't regret it. Like it's come on now. Who wouldn't want to be in a car with me for like 12 hours? It's crazy. Give me some energy
Well,
drinks. Oh yeah. It's like
oh
snorting
my
cocaine
God.
up to, I don't know. I've never snorted cocaine, but I could say it, Everybody else can tell me.
And on that note, we're going to wrap it up right there before we get into too much trouble. And so I would like to say thank you for being on. Obviously, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I reached out to you like 3 years ago and didn't hear a response, or I might have, and you
I'm
might have
sorry.
been super busy, which is cool. I wasn't ready for you. I wasn't ready for you.
I
I needed
cheated
to
on
evolve.
I cheated on wrestling with a marriage, so we'll just put it that way.
I needed to evolve to be ready for this. So I've evolved to
Well,
get it.
mentally you
It's like
do, otherwise you're
Pokemon.
going to need therapy afterwards. But yes, I agree.
Therapy can't solve me. We've already been down that road. You know,
I tried that.
it's
They were like,
okay.
"Here's some pills. Go on." I was like, "Oh, okay. Here we go."
My therapist quit on me, but then, that's a horrible joke. That's a horrible joke. But anyway,
But
on
it's
that note,
true.
I'm gonna wrap it up right now, and this is a wrap.
Bye.